Hello everybody and welcome to day 2 of the 2023 pre-season tests here at Misano. The final day at Misano where, as you can see on your screen, we have got something different. It is going to be raining for day number 2 and as you can see it is going to get changeable as the session progresses. But anyway, I am JW97 and today I am joined by, my arch nemesis, and he's letting us know that his name is on there due to the 3-letter prefix that was there yesterday. It's Ra.
Hello, everybody.
It's going to be interesting to see what it's like in these wet conditions. So we might expect some very interesting results come the end of this 45-minute session. The last day here at Misano, because of course the last 2 days will be off to the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, where we should have more of a high-speed test. This has been more of, let's say, a downforce test, because obviously this track is more about downforce as opposed to high speed. But obviously when we go to Spielberg, a completely different story. But anyway, as you'd see, we're starting on the extreme wet tyres for this session, but as we saw with the weather forecast, we may expect drivers to go onto more into different tyres later on. We could see the normal wets being used later, and maybe a chance we could even see the inters. We'll have to wait and see on that one. As the 45-minute session gets underway, as we're running in the cockpit of Gabriel Gomez, who yesterday finished up in 13th position. And, might as well talk about yesterday, Ra, whilst we wait for everybody to go out onto the racetrack, because, when we were in the dry, some very interesting results, it was fair to say. I think one of the things I think we could take away from yesterday is it does appear that, apart from this guy who topped the session yesterday, which was Jesus Perinen, it does appear like, along with Mercedes and Red Bull, who look like they're going to be fighting at the front again, it looks like they're joined by Haas.
Yeah, it looks like they'll be joined by Haas, and it looks like we're going to have a very competitive season between 3 teams.
Yeah, indeed, and maybe even Renault as well being like an outsider like they were last season as well, because looking at the times yesterday, they were not too far away from the top 3, but I think like last season we could see Renault maybe upset the front runners. It's just that now they've probably got an extra team to fight with.
Yeah, it looks like it, but they could be there with Mercedes and Red Bull, and of course with Haas as well, but we'll have to wait to see how they do with that neutral trend, but it looks like they are a little bit closer.
Indeed so, and it looks like they might have sorted out the consistency issues that they had last season, but that could be down to the fact that after the top 4 teams, you've got a bit of a gap to the rest of the teams, because the gap between Renault and the next team, which was Lamborghini, is just under 3 tenths, so a bit of a gap there. But in terms of the other teams, I think the other talking point, Toyota, looking very decent on their first time out, 11th and 13th, they look like they could be fighting in the midfield, it seems, maybe towards the top end of the midfield in their first season.
Yeah, they're like where Lamborghini are, and it's good for them. Of course, Lamborghini, who coming into this season had a downtrend, but it hasn't affected them. So I think the regulations haven't affected them that much, but we'll see what they can do in other tracks.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll have to obviously wait and see how that is obviously going to play out, of course. Obviously, you touched on there with Lamborghini as well, and obviously we knew that they had a downward trend coming into it, but it does appear that they've not been affected too much by it.
Yeah, it seems like that. Of course, it does depend on tracks and also variation, of course. So they did well in day 1. Let's see what they can do in day 2 in the mixed conditions.
Indeed so, and obviously, as if anybody didn't see the weather, of course, we are in extreme wet conditions to start with, but it should get a little bit better as the session goes on. We might see normal wets and even inter conditions. We're not expecting dry conditions, though, for today, but we should expect lighter conditions as the session progresses in this 45-minute session. It's Perinen now that we're riding on board with. He's just coming around the quadruple right-hander on the racetrack, and so far, knock on wood, we haven't had any reliability issues from any of the teams so far in this test. It looks like as I say that, Carl has now got a problem. In fact, he's got a brake problem and he's got a pit indicator. Now, will he make it back to the pits in time or will the car conk out? That's going to be the question. But first mechanical problem in this testing session, and it comes to the Mercedes of car. And, I didn't think Mercedes would be the first to have a mechanical problem during testing.
Yeah, that was unexpected. And, yeah, it's a brake problem, but hopefully he can get back into the pits, which he should, but you never know what GP4 can produce.
Yeah, indeed. We're just trying to find him. There he is. He's still running at the moment. The question is, can he make it back to the pits, or will the car conk out before he even has a chance? Because we obviously have the spare car ban, let's not forget. So if he conks out during this run, then he's not going to be able to set a lap in this final day of testing. And it looks like, well, I say that, he's actually being overtaken by the Aston and the Red Bull here. So both of them would have been held up by Car as a result of that. And even that Red Bull struggling to get by. But I think Car is going to make it back to the pits. He is. So he should get that problem repaired. Oh, no, he won't. He's pulled off. It conks out just as he came to the pit entrance there. A little bit similar to what we saw with Kirishima DeRosa at the San Marino Grand Prix last season, and unfortunately, that's Car's session done with.
I just can't get a break at all. Even at the start of this season, and this is pre-season, and he literally can't get a break.
Yeah, indeed, he pulls off just at the pit entrance, and unfortunately, that is session done for Armar Car, and well, that's pretty much that, really. So, yeah. Well, I'm very surprised about that one. That is for sure. So, yeah, I don't know if can people still see that poll, by the way? Because I've tried to hide it, so I can. Is that poll still there, by the way, Yuri? Because I'm not 100% sure. So, oh, it's still there. Okay, I pressed something just to close it so I could see the rest of the chat, really. But anyway, that's Car's session done with. So we're only going to get 21 lap times in this preseason test. So a setback for Armar Car. Maybe a bit of a worry for Jesus Perinen. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But of course, it was a brake problem. It's possible they can make it back to the pits, but for Car, he didn't.
Yeah, indeed, and well, as we're getting some more time on the board, we see Gabriel Gomez getting held up by one of the Aston Martins going around this, and some conclusions that I think we can make as well. Also, I think it's safe to say we might as well talk about two teams in particular looking at preseason testing. The first one we'll look at is Aston Martin. A lot of people were thinking that perhaps they were going to be the slowest team as a result of the downtrend, and it does appear like that, but I think, unlike Williams, right, I don't think they're too far off everyone.
Yeah, it looks like they could be competitive, and let's see what they could do. I think they could, if they can keep this up going in day 2, and of course in day 3 and day 4 in Austria. I think they might be able to get themselves out of last, but you would expect them to be the slowest car, but just marginally.
Yep, but one team that's definitely not had the best preseason test, it's fair to say, is, of course, Ferrari, because so far, as we could see yesterday, 17th and 22nd, and today, doesn't look like their pace has improved either. It looks like Ferrari have taken a huge step back.
Yeah, definitely for them, and that is a shame, of course, for them, and of course Chris Chapford as well. He's staying well at Ferrari, but it's not really paying off, and he's got a long season ahead of him. But if he does well this season, maybe he could get a good seat.
Perhaps indeed, unless he feels that Ferrari will be able to progress from this. I had a bit of lag there, so I don't know if my voice there was lagging a little bit or not. It was a similar issue that we had yesterday. But as I was saying there, Chatfield, maybe, unless he feels that Ferrari could progress, especially in the trends, then maybe he could possibly stay, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see what Chris says. I mean, at the moment, I can tell what Chris's mind is saying in the stream chat, but we'll just have to wait and see if that ends up being the case still when we get to the silly season, of course, which will, of course, be on the Sunday after the Austrian Grand Prix. As meanwhile, the Renaults are currently in the, well, I think that's a Renault in front of the Ferrari in front there, but I'm not sure. But this is a Renault we're looking at. This is Johannes Martins, who yesterday finished in 8th. Just specifically, very close to his teammate, it must be said, up to speed, it must be said. Roughly just under 600ths of a second separated the two Renaults yesterday, and well, they look like they've got some good pace underneath them, but I think the important thing for them is they'll be hoping they don't have many reliability issues, and it's the Lamborghini that was in front of the Ferrari now, not another Renault, not his teammate Quark, because we saw Quark on the other side of the track just a little bit early on. Burning Prix to do a 1 minute 22.721 in this session. So that's that, really. But other teams that we can also talk about, it's a little bit of an unknown where McLaren are in terms of the pecking order. But if I was to hazard a guess, looking at their pace at the moment, I would say that maybe they're fighting with the likes of Sauber. Because Sauber, although they've made an improvement as a result of their upward trend, it does feel like it's not been a big jump in terms of performance. So maybe we could see Sauber and McLaren potentially fighting with each other this season.
Yeah, maybe they could fight with Toyota, Williams, and of course Lamborghini, but of course it could be a tight midfield there.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like Toyota could be fighting with Lamborghini and even Williams as well, because Williams, as we saw yesterday with Julius Anderson, looks like they've taken a big step forward in terms of pace as well. And I think for Felix Santong and Julius Anderson, they'll be definitely happy about that.
Yeah, definitely happy about that. But of course, Sontag, there was contact there between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes of Jesus Perinin, that is Suto, that Perinen's run into the back of.
Yeah, it looks like there was a little bit of contact going into the final corner. I'm not sure if it was because Perrin was getting a little bit impatient being stuck behind the Aston. And yeah, I think it might have been a little bit of impatience there. Maybe Suto moving on the brake in there. But luckily, neither of them have serious damage. And luckily, Suto didn't spin off there. But that has definitely cost him some time. He was even up on his personal best, as you can see. But I guess he's not going to be particularly happy with Perrin in there. But as we were saying with Williams, definitely some positive signs over at the Oxfordshire-based team.
Yeah, and of course they need to do well this season. Of course, with both drivers, Anderson is returning to the top class. Of course, this is his third return, as we have alluded to back in day one, and yeah, he's got to take the opportunity and do well this season. Same for Sontag. He has done well previously with slower cars. If he can do well in the faster car, in the faster Williams, then that would be great for him as well.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, of course, one thing we need to talk about as well with Ferrari, just going back onto the topic with them, of course, we're at Misano, which is more of a downforce track, but I'll be curious to see what their high speed is like, because they did have a very good engine last season, and I would imagine, looking at the pace of the Haas, who obviously are supplied with Ferrari engines, I would imagine they've got some good top-end speed, but we'll obviously get some clarity of that when we get to the Red Bull Ring tomorrow, and, of course, Thursday as well. And, of course, tomorrow, let's not forget as well, we also have the Formula E preseason test over at the Ricardo Tormo. It will be Blake's first stream as the OC host, so good luck to him for tomorrow at 7 p.m. BST after the day 3 preseason test at the Red Bull Ring. But yeah, that will be curious for me to figure out as well, to see what the straight line speed is going to be like with these cars, because obviously this track is more of a downforce track, it's fair to say, and it'll be interesting to see if Ferrari do have some good straight line speed. Then I think when we get to tracks like the Red Bull Ring, or even Road America as well, I would even say that's also a high speed track as well, then maybe then we could draw it on the conclusion that maybe their chassis is not very good, and maybe they could possibly counteract when we get to high speed tracks. They could maybe counteract the results with the engine they've got in the back.
Yeah, maybe. It might not be over for Ferrari, but they will be on the lower end. They have the midfield, but of course they could also be fine for Aston Martin at the same time as well. But time will tell, and of course we'll see what they can do on different tracks.
Indeed so. As we look at Rahul Patel in the Sauber, of course, and obviously a very different helmet for Rahul Patel this season, going with quite a patterned helmet this time with an Indian flag on the back, and quite a lot of good helmets this season, it must be said, and that we've seen across the series. I mean, Evans showed some 2 days ago of some of the helmets that some drivers are using, which will look pretty good. Meanwhile, Johannes Martins moves up into fourth position in the Renault now then, as he gets in front of George Roque, who is currently over a second behind Evan Byrne, who's currently at the top by 4/10 of a second on a 1:22.512. Anderson improves, but only into 20th position. Here is Roque, who's coming back into the pits this time by. And so far, Red Bull looking pretty good in these wet conditions, it must be said. And hopefully we'll be in for a very close fight once again between Red Bull and Mercedes, and maybe even Haas as well, if what they're showing is pretty good. At the moment, we've got Kloss, who's up in third position at the moment. Teammate Chung currently down in 10th. I'm not sure if she's been involved in some traffic or not, but yeah, very interesting at the moment we're looking at with the tyres. But of course, I do expect maybe, as talked about a little bit earlier on, that we could see some maybe faster lap times, because we are expecting lighter rain conditions as the session progresses. So we could see some drivers maybe going onto the normal wets or even onto the intermediates. We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Chatfield gets up into 11th place in the Ferrari, 2.3 seconds off of Byrne, as Gomez goes 15th in the Toyota. Teammate Lopez up in 12th. Kloss now goes up into second place. He's now 3/10 off of Evan Byrne at the moment, so he gets in front of Jesus Perrin, who's now the only Mercedes in the session as a result of car having a mechanical issue. I think it was a brake issue, if I'm not mistaken, it read on his car there, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, that's that. Martins improves but remains in fourth position at the moment. The man who, of course, has replaced Perinen at Renault as a result of Perinen going over to Mercedes to replace Lopez, who's obviously gone to the brand new Toyota team. Well, I asked this opinion yesterday with Franco Gama about what his favourite livery was. Mind if I ask your opinion, Ra? What, in your opinion, out of the 11 liveries that we've seen, which one's your favourite?
Um, every livery has been amazing so far. I think there are room for improvements for some, but for me, I think my favorite livery of the season has to be the Williams.
Same opinion as Franco. It seems a lot of people do like the Williams, especially with how the pink has been basically gradiented into the blue essentially. So yeah, pretty good. And but overall, I think everybody's done a fantastic job. I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet there, but there we are with the 4 liveries I did. But there we are. But yeah, that's that. As Martins is coming back into the pits meanwhile in the Renault. Here comes Gabriel Gomez, who goes into 11th. Kloss improves, and I think he might have actually got some slipstream from Gomez, in fact, because he's right behind him, as you can see in the mirrors there. He just about saw the right and red car of Kloss right behind. He's just improved because he's now 2 tenths behind Evan Burns' Red Bull at this stage, and there's actually a couple of cars in front who are also holding each other up at the present moment as Sontag comes around the hairpin. But yeah, that's pretty much that. So overall, apart from Carl that we saw overall, everybody's been kind of reliable so far in terms of reliability. We haven't really seen, which I guess in a way could be good news for McLaren because, well, I talked about it yesterday with Franco Gamba, of course, and well, I think it's safe to say that they definitely need a better season because although their car was not the best last season, it's safe to say, they did lose a lot of points last season thanks to mechanical problems.
Yeah, and they need to sort that one out. That's one of the main issues as well. So yeah, it's good that they've sorted. It looks like they might have sorted that one out, but we'll have to see going into day 3 and day 4 in Austria, and also the remaining time of the session in day 2.
Yeah, indeed, and I think the engines will definitely have a little bit more of a test tomorrow and Thursday as well, because obviously it's a high-speed track we'll be heading towards at the Red Bull Ring, and it'll be interesting to see who's got the best engine out of all of them, because so far we've seen that it looks like Mercedes have probably got a good downforce chassis again, but whether they've got a good engine in the back, we'll have to wait and see, of course, although they do have a neutral trend like with Red Bull, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their engine power may have not been tweaked, I'm not sure. But anyways, we look at Blackwood at the moment, who's currently in, where is Blackwood at the moment? 17th. He obviously finished 9th yesterday in the test. Obviously one of a few rookies in the field. Obviously we've got Javari Blackwood. We also have the 2 Aston Martin drivers as well, of Joseph Suto and Andrei Sazonov. Those are the 3 rookies. And then, of course, we've got a couple of returning drivers, that being Julius Anderson and Gabriel Gomez. Both of them, of course, fighting for the World Champ Car title last season, which, of course, Anderson won. But out of nowhere, it was Pyramid who ended up winning the team's title last season. And they've obviously got quite a strong lineup in Adam Wolf and Florian Volker this season, so it'll be interesting to see what Pyramid can do. And even Andretti's got a strong lineup in Robert Ionescu and David Kupart, with Penske going for quite an interesting lineup in Frederick Soper and Rifki Fakhrizadeh, the returning Rifki Fakhrizadeh. So World Champ Car looks like it's going to be quite competitive as well, and hopefully we'll be in for a close championship in that. Whilst we were just speaking there, as we now look at Laura Chung, who's trying to overtake her former team, Lamborghini, trying to pass Blackwood. She's actually got up into 6th, and it looks like with teammate Kloss, she was able to use a bit of slipstream down the pit straight. And speaking of Kloss, he now goes to the top of the timing screen. So 1 minute 22.465. He goes 47 thousandths quicker than Evan Byrne, and I think he might have got some slipstream from Quarg, in fact, because I think he might have actually overtook the Renault driver, who's currently in 7th place. But yeah, once again, even in the wet conditions, the Haas showing some pretty good pace.
Yeah, that has shown some pretty good pace, and as you said, they could be a one to watch, and this is why.
Yeah, indeed, and they could really maybe take it to Red Bull and Mercedes this season, as Quarg now they're making his way around the left-hander now. Then, as it looks like the Haas of Chung in front is Kloss is now starting to pull away a little bit. Chung further improves but remains in 6th position at this stage. So far, everybody's still on the extreme wet tyres. We're not seeing anybody trying to blink and go on to another wet compound. Willows goes up to 16th in the McLaren. Teammate De Rosa currently in the top 10 at the moment as we speak. as both Williamses are the only two drivers in the pit lane at the moment, unless you also count Carr, who's obviously not taking part for the remainder of the session due to the mechanical problem that he suffered. But yeah, that's pretty much that, as now Krog will make his way towards the final corner. Sazonov goes up into 18th, as in fact Kloss in front now goes into the pits. Byrne, I've just noticed, has come back out onto the track for Red Bull, so we'll see if he's able to get back to the top of the timing screens or not. But for Evan Byrne, I think we might as well talk about him, and he does actually go to the top as I speak there. So he goes 1/10 quicker than Kloss on that occasion. Verderi went up to 7th, in fact, in the Ferrari, and Gomez went up to 10th. So I think Verderi might have actually got a little bit of a helping hand as well from some slipstream in front. So Verderi getting his Ferrari up into P7. At the moment, Mocho goes into 13th, unless maybe a sign that the conditions might be improving. Who knows? But anyway, on the topic of Byrne, who we're riding on board with at the moment, obviously a great end to the season for Byrne, despite what happened in Argentina. But really, you sense that maybe Byrne is out for revenge this season, and he is determined that this season, could this finally be the season that he can finally win that elusive championship that he's been craving for a long time.
Yeah, it could possibly be, and he is really looking for revenge and for redemption. And yeah, he really needs to have a season like a really good season, and of course, a season that is better than last season. And hopefully, the reliability issues don't kick in.
Yeah, indeed, but like last season, I am expecting him to also have some tough competition because, well, if it's anything to go by, and we're looking at 3 teams fighting for the title this season, unless somehow Renault get involved. But either way, if Renault do get themselves involved somehow, which I think, like last season, I think that's probably unlikely, but they could be there to upset the top teams if that's the case. And if we have to call Haas a top team now, it's safe to say that there's a very, very high chance that we will have a brand new name as a champion to become a champion this season, because the 2 drivers competing for Red Bull, the 2 drivers competing for Mercedes, and the 2 drivers competing for Haas have not won a top class title before, so we could see a new name on the list.
Yeah, we could, and this would be interesting to see who will it be.
Indeed so, and it's going to be very interesting. If it's going to be very close, then I'm in for the ride, of course. But yeah, it should be quite interesting. I mean, the first 2 races of the season at Road America and Interlagos are obviously tracks that are known to produce some good racing. So hopefully that could be a thing for the season as well, that we just get a good race all season. As we've just got some information from Yuri, in fact, that Rahul Patel in the Sauber has actually gone onto the normal wet tyres. So he's the first one to change compound, as Lopez goes up into 6th. He's still on the extreme tyres, as you can see, the reigning world champion. And obviously a new challenge for Lopez this season in the Toyota. Obviously we're not expecting him to retain the title this season, but so far looks like some encouraging progress with Toyota already, given that this is their first season back, and maybe something for Lopez to build on for future seasons, because that's why he's here. He's obviously hoping to turn Toyota into a real threat in the future.
Yeah, and so far he's doing a good job. And yeah, if Toyota can improve going into the next couple of seasons, then they could be there.
Indeed so, and if they, as I said with Franco Gamba yesterday, if there's one person that could probably do that, it probably would be Franco Lopez, the 3-time world champion, second on the statistics now in terms of championships. He's got ahead of Joseph Willows and Jay McKenzie because he was tied with them for quite a while. As meanwhile, Byrne is on an improvement. He's gone 3 temps up in the first sector. He's still on the extreme wet tyres, unlike Rahul Patel, who's on the normal wet at the moment, as Suto goes up into 11th place there, meanwhile, in the Aston. So that does indicate to me, and especially with Patel on the normal wets, that the conditions are improving here at Misano.
Yeah, it looks like that. We'll see if Patel is on the personal best as well, but as Byrne is still up on his personal best, he is, and another personal best. Lopez also improves, same for Rogue. Sontag also improves as well. There is a lot of improvement going on.
Yep, as meanwhile Willows is trying to overtake Gomez into turn number, I think that was turn number 4 he was trying to overtake him at. So, yeah, it looks like Willow's getting a little bit raced as well. But we are seeing improvements across the field, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Byrne improve, which he's just done now. He's actually broke into the 1 minute 21s now. 1 minute 21.748 for Evan Byrne. So he's now 7 tenths clear of Barch's class. So yeah, the conditions are definitely improving. But so far, we've only seen Patel on the normal wets. I'm not sure if anybody else out there is on the normal wets or not. Willows is still on the extreme wet tyres we're riding on board with him. And we saw that Byrne was still on those tyres. Same with Franco Lopez earlier on. But I'm not sure if anybody else other than Patel has also decided to switch onto the normal wet tyres. But that will definitely be one to keep an eye on.
Yep, just realized that he is back into the pits. So, of course, he didn't improve, but it could be useful information for everyone else.
Yeah, indeed, but it does appear like the conditions are improving, judging from the fact that Byrne has now got his car into the 1 minute 21s, as here is Willows taking advantage of what that pit lane entrance can do, because we saw it a little bit last season as well. Gomez is on normal wets. I just realised that Gomez is on normal wets, so that might actually explain why Willows was trying to find a way through on him. Maybe Gomez may have gone a little bit early on normal wets. So speaking of Toyotas, Lopez has actually gone up. Well, he did go up into third, but Roke has now gone up into third. But Lopez up into fourth place. A little bit familiar territory with Lopez, it must be said, when he was at Mercedes. But I don't think it's going to be a bit of a frequent thing that we're going to see with Lopez this season. But I think for Lopez, his target this season is just to get a good amount of points for Toyota and hopefully get the team to finish decently in the Constructors. As Byrne further improves to go on to a 1 minute 21.440. So he's now just over a second clear now of Barch's class, who's still yet to improve in that hat. He's not done just yet. So far, it is a Red Bull 1-3 on day 2 here, as Roke just overtakes the Lamborghini there. Martins goes up into 6th place now in the Renault, but he's 1.6 seconds off of Byrne at this stage. So that's that then. And, well, it's getting very interesting as more lap times start to come in and more improvements start to progress. But, yeah, we saw that Gomez was on the normal wets, but given that Willows was struggling to pass him there, maybe it's a little bit too early to go on those normal wets at the moment.
Maybe, or it could be the right time. I did see the Lamborghini of Jafari Blackwood on the normal wet.
And he's currently down in 19th place at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see if he's going to be able to improve or not at that point. As Roke comes back into the pits, I wonder if he'll decide to switch on to the normal wet at this point. Willows improves to go 16th. Lopez goes back up to 3rd place now in the Toyota, gets back in front of Roke, who's obviously just come into the pits there, and he's actually just 7 thousandths off of Bartrish Kloss's Haas at this stage at the moment, as the rain continues to pour down here at Misano with just under 20 minutes left in this session. But it's definitely getting quite interesting in terms of lap times as more drivers start to improve in this session now then. As Byrne further improves, a 1 minute 21.23, 1.2 seconds clear now of Barch's class, as the auto camera is still stuck on George Roke at the moment. I don't know if Yui's disappeared for the moment, but yeah, not really the best view to have at the moment in this test. Martin's 5th. I think I saw Quago up to 7th there at the moment in the Renault now. Then as we look at Car's car for some reason, but now we look at Videri's coming out on the racetrack as Chung goes up into 4th place now in the Haas. Videri currently in the top 10 along with teammate Chatfield, so a little bit better for Ferrari, but of course this is due to the fact that the conditions are changing, and he's on the wet tyres, and so is Laura Chung in front. So both Chung and Videri have gone on to the normal wet tyres, and we did see that Chung was improving, so maybe we're now at that stage where the normal wet tyres are the way to go.
Yeah, let's see. We could see more improvements to come. Let's see if everyone else will follow suit.
Yeah, or you could just say, Michael Clark, that they used to make VHS tapes. Nowadays, they just make memory sticks. But they are an affiliate company to Hitachi. That would have been a simpler explanation rather than just copy and pasting what's on Wikipedia. But anyway, now Byrne has just done a 121.138. Even the dog commentator's a bit excited with this at the moment, with the changeable conditions. You didn't hear her yesterday, but she is still there. But anyway, Kloss now improves, but he's still over a second. Maybe is he on the normal wets though? I wonder. I know that Byrne is not on those normal wets yet because I didn't see him come back into the pit, so I know he's still on the extreme wet. But yeah, quite interesting. Perinen now goes up to 2nd. Martin's up into 6th position, and yeah. That's that really, as Chung now goes up to 3rd, and she's still improving on those normal wets. So I wonder when Videri gets them up to temperature, what he's going to be able to do with these tyres as he just goes around turn 3. Quark now goes up into second place now as we get more improvements as this session progresses.
Yep, let's see. Of course, more times will come up, more improvements, as we see Sazonov going up to 20th.
Indeed so, and Videri actually down on his personal best in Sector 1, but only by a few hundreds. We'll see if he's able to pick that up in those last two sectors. Here's Joseph Frederick Suto, who's currently finding himself in... where is he at the moment? He's 16th at the moment. Blackwood goes up into 9th at the moment in the Lamborghini. Suto is not going to improve. I don't know if he got a little bit held up there going into the pit entrance, but that's that. Burns now come back in, so I wonder if he's now going to switch on to those normal wet tyres. Could there be a chance maybe later on? Because we did see on the weather forecast, maybe somebody try and dare their luck on going onto the inters. We shall see. Kloss now goes back up into second place as Patel gets it all crossed up into the first corner, just as Kloss overtakes him into turn 1 there. But Patel currently 18th at the moment. Teammate Valdinger currently 15th at this stage at the moment as he now makes his way in towards the double right-hander. Chung goes into first, so second and third now for the two Haas drivers at this stage, as I think we're going to get more and more improvements as the session keeps on going, maybe even right to the end of the session. We'll have to wait and see, as Quag now 27 thousandths off of Burn, so we could see somebody go to the top in a little bit and maybe break into the 1 minute 20s. We shall wait and see, as De Rosa goes 9th at the moment in the McLaren. But yeah, that's pretty much that really. So in terms of any other teams I need to talk about, I don't think so. I think we've really covered most of the teams, if I'm being honest. In fact, we'll talk about Sauber whilst we're riding on board. We talked about maybe they could be fighting with McLaren, but are you a little bit surprised given that they had an upward trend, that they've not really progressed too much?
A little bit, yeah. They haven't really progressed that much, but at least they are fighting with McLaren, so that's the only way up there. But let's see what they can do in other tracks. Maybe they could be stronger in other tracks.
We shall see, of course. We'll have to see what their high speed is like, because that's going to be something I'll be intrigued by with the Ferrari engine, that's for sure. Maybe something that could counteract. Maybe not just Ferrari, but maybe even Sauber as well when we get to high-speed tracks. We'll have to wait and see on that. Martins and Chatfield currently doing improvements as we speak right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if everybody is now onto the normal wet tyres as we speak, including the ones who are now in the pit lane at the moment. Videri goes 7th, meanwhile, now in the Ferrari. Teammate Chatfield is outside. Quag now goes to the top and does break into the 1 minute 20s now. 1 minute 20.664 for the French driver, as he now goes 4 tenths quicker than Evan Byrne. So the Renault now goes to the top. De Rosa goes 9th at the moment in the McLaren, gets in front of Franco Lopez at this stage now then, as Lopez is currently in the pit lane at the moment. In fact, a few cars are currently in this pit lane. I think it's safe to say if you're Armar car, you're feeling a little bit jealous that your car broke down at the start of the session, because we're getting more quicker lap times. I think even the sun's starting to come out, because it looks like the track is getting a little bit more brighter. So looks like the sun's coming out. Looks like the rain might have started to ease as well. So maybe as the session progresses, we could get onto those intermediate tyres. Roke now goes to the top of the timing sheets by 8,000 of a second, a 1 minute 20.656 for George Roke in the Red Bull now then, as Mocho goes into the hairpin. Wallows now breaks into the top 10 in the McLaren, goes into the 9th position, gets in front of Jafari Blackwood. Speaking of Lamborghinis, we're looking at Mocho, who's currently holding up one of the Renault drivers at the moment, and I think that Renault's actually gone into the pits because he's not right behind at this stage. That Renault would be Martin's, because Quag is still on the track as we speak. So yeah, that's that, as Mocho makes his way into the first few turns on the racetrack now then, as he's on the normal wet tyres, but currently finding himself in 17th position. Videri improves, currently 7th place at the moment in the Ferrari, as we get more as the lap times start to tumble down as the conditions continue to improve here at Misano. But yeah, that's pretty much that really. But overall, Lamborghini have shown some pretty good pace so far in these last couple of days. I think surprisingly than what people were thinking were going to happen with Lamborghini. I think it's safe to say. But yeah, as Sazonov is currently 15th at the moment. He's just got in front of Rahul Patel's Sauber at the present moment. Mocho is up on his personal best, so I'll be intrigued to see what he's able to do in this car. Of course, with Mocho as well, he'll be hoping for a good season, because of course he did just miss out on staying at Haas, and I guess he's feeling a little bit gutted that he's not at the team, given how well Haas have been looking in pre-season testing. And well, for Mocho really, he'll be hoping he just has a good season with Lamborghini.
Yeah, he just hopes he think he has a good season, and hopefully he can move to a better team. And also, if he stays at Lamborghini, he's got to hope that Lamborghini's trend is up, and hopefully they can improve.
Ah, okay, yeah. So as you can see, we've got we've got an actual emoji working now since we became a channel partner. So yeah, we've now got an emoji working, as you might have seen on the in the stream chat. So anyway, as back to the action, as more lap times continue to impress. Mocho, he's still in 18th at the moment, wasn't able to improve that much in the Lambo, as Valdinger briefly got into his favourite position of 10th place before De Rosa came onto the scene. Perronen now goes into 3rd place, the top 3 now separated by 53 thousandths of a second in this session now. Then Willow's continuing to improve. He's actually up in 5th place and looks like he could further improve. Here is Felix Sontag in the Williams and getting a little bit held up by a Renault, in fact, and he's actually overtaking the Renault going into the left-hander. I wonder if the tyres on on that Renault's car is starting to fade away. Rope further improves. He does a 1 minute 20.104, so we're pretty close to breaking into the 1 minute 19s at the moment, as my phone decided to go off there. But Willows does not improve, got held up there by the Aston Martin into the first corner and still not able to find a way through on that was Suto, in fact, because he's obviously just improved. Gomez goes into 11th position at this stage now then. And so now we head our way into the double right-hander. I wonder if Willows will actually overtake, but in fact he's coming into the pits at the end of this lap, as you see on the def panel on the top of the screen. Obviously, excuse me, it looks like the rain might have ease a little bit. There is still some rain on the screen, as you can see, but on some parts of the track the rain looks like it has eased, and as you can see the sky is starting to get a little bit brighter around the racetrack. So will we see, before the end of the session come to a close, anybody go on to the intermediate tyres, I wonder?
We'll see. We only have less than 11 minutes to go. We'll see if anyone goes on to the intermediates, but time will tell there.
Indeed so, as now Suto has now been overtaken by Willows. We just talked about that a little bit earlier on. Anderson now goes 14th in the Williams as they just make their way through the quadruple right-hander now then, with just under 10.5 minutes to go in this session now then. And, well, the session has gone quite quickly, and I guess some of that is down to the changeable conditions that we've had. Willows now comes back in. Lopez goes into 4th place now in the Toyota. Berner's not been able to get an improvement so far in that Red Bull, but his teammate's still at the top by 0.5 of a second. So that suggests to me, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, that we're going to see somebody potentially creep into the 1 minute 19. So we'll have to wait and see on that, as we now just got under 10 minutes to go in this session now then, as we get into the single figures in this session now then. As Suto now then, let's see what his first sector is like compared to his personal best, and he's 0.3 up on that personal best. Sontag goes up into 6th place now in the Williams, as now going through the left-hander we will go on this racetrack now then, as Suto will now make his way in towards that door. Perina now goes to the top, but still not broke into the 1 minute 19s yet. Byrne goes up into 4th place. Valdinger goes up into 9th place in this session. Suto continuing to improve. Let's see what Anderson could do. His teammate's up in 6th. Anderson goes into 8th. So 6th and 8th so far for the two Williams drivers, as now Anderson just making his way into the first few turns. Chatfield only going up into 15th that time by. And so that's pretty much that, as we have just over 9 minutes to go now then in the session. Lopez gets improves but remains in 5th position so far in the Toyota. And we'll see if Anderson is able to further improve. Not got a pit indicator, so he is going to continue going around the track. And he's actually 63 thousandths down on his personal best at this stage now then, as Perinin 41 thousandths quicker than Roke. And he's actually up, but I think he might be getting held up by that Sauber soon. Looks like, I think, I'm not sure if I saw things wrong there, but it looked like Chatfield got a little bit crossed up going into the hairpin there, as he just makes his way towards the double right hand. He locked up. I was correct there. You should clarify that to me on my headphones there. So yep, that's that. As now Chatfield coming towards the end of Sector 2, and he's still up on his personal best, but he's obviously lost a lot of time thanks to that lock-up he had, as Perinin does not improve, as it was Patel that was holding him up, I think, unless it was Valdinger, because Valdinger has actually improved, but I'm not sure. I think that time came just after Perinin crossed the line, so I think Valdinger might actually be behind. It might be Patel that Perinin has just overtaken there, but We'll obviously have to wait and see. Kloss goes 6th now in the Haas now then, as Perinen is now clear of the traffic. So let's see if he could try and maybe break into the 1:19s. We'll have to wait and see as the Spaniard approaches the end of the first sector, and he's 1/10 up on his personal best. Lopez further improves but remains in 5th position, as the top 5 are the only ones that are under a second behind Perinen at this stage of testing. Will anybody blink onto the intermediate tyres, I wonder, as the session continues on? But yeah, that's that really. It's Perinen now then making his way towards the quadruple right-hander now then on the racetrack. As let's see if he's still up. He is by 2/10, so we could see somebody break into the 1:19s in this session now. And as the Spaniard now goes around the final part of this quadruple right-hander, there's a couple of cars in front, but they are far away from Perinen to catch up to. Especially if any of them decide to go into the pits, that is, and neither of them do on that occasion. So, through the final turn, is Perinen going to break into the 1:19s? He should do, but let's see. Across the line goes the Spaniard, and he does. A 1:19.694, and he's 4/10 quicker than Rogue. So, Perinen the first to break into the 1:19s. But let's see if anybody can possibly dip into the 1:18s.
Yeah, let's see. Not that much time left, only 6.5 minutes to go. Yeah, there is a lot of time to find. Chance of 1:18 is there.
Indeed so, as more lap times continue to tumble down, and Perinen was actually up on his personal best again in Sector 1. Lopez not able to improve because he's getting held up here by the Renault, and that Renault is, I'm not sure if it's Quag or Martins. I'm not really sure, I can't really tell from that. It might be Martins, because it looked like I saw a little bit of green on the helmet, so I think it might be Martins that's holding up Lopez at the moment. No, it's Quag, in fact. I've just seen the blue there. So it's actually Quag that's holding up Lopez at this stage now then. But Lopez showing some good pace. Looks like the Toyota has got some good pace in the wet conditions, it must be said. Although Gomez is down in 15th, 10 places back from his three-time world champion teammate Lopez. And Lopez, of course, carrying the number 1 on his car on the Toyota this season. And you just said they're probably Lopez's driving skill. So perhaps that is. As Perinen is actually now caught up to traffic. Can he still improve regardless? No, he can't. He gets held up by the other Renault of Joantas Martin. So the Renault is causing a bit of headache for some people on this lap. But I think Martin is also being held up by a car in front of him. That looks like, I think that might be a McLaren that's in front. Kloss goes up into 3rd place, meanwhile, in the Haas. And, well, a little bit of shoving there. But it looks like there could be a big traffic jam. And it is a McLaren that was in front of Martin's there. So we've got a big traffic jam forming with these 4 cars. And meanwhile, Anderson goes up to P7 now in the Williams. Chatfield up into P number 11. Both Williams are still in the top 10 in the session. Martins looks like it's Michael Mocho who's trying to overtake, and down the inside goes Martins, but he can't make it stick. With just under 5 minutes now left in day 2 on the final day here at Misano before we head off to the Red Bull Ring for the next 2 days. And, well, that's that really. We did actually view Anderson a little bit earlier on there, Flo. You might want to rewind, I think. I think we did see Anderson. Oh, okay, sorry, I just read that. I'm clearly a little bit slow today, it must be said. So, anyway, as now coming around the hairpin now, then we go, as Martins is still being held up by Michael Mocho's Lamborghini, and the McLaren getting away a little bit, it must be said, and even Perinen's getting held up, but Perinen is coming into the pits anyway, so it's not going to matter too much for the Spaniard as he now makes his way into the pit lane. Kloss will also be joining him as well, as Videri comes around the hairpin. He's got one of the Williamses right behind him, and I think that's Julius Anderson, in fact, that's right behind. So, yeah, that's that, as Martin's now coming around turn 2 and 3 now, then we go, as he's still actually stuck behind Mocho at the moment, so it looks like Martins is still going to get held up badly here at the moment. Anderson further improves in 7th place. He's now 1.2 seconds behind Jesus Perinen, and speaking of which, he's coming back into the pits this lap. He's actually getting held up by Videri in front in the Ferrari. Speaking of Ferraris, Chatfield now goes up into 8th position, and so that's pretty much that really, as now coming around the section of corners we go, as meanwhile all but Roke in the top 6 are currently in the pit lane now then. I wonder if anyone will get out there last of all. I'm not sure if we're going to see the interconditions now, as we've not got that much left in the session, so I think any chance of seeing the intermediate conditions might have gone at this point, but you never know, things could change, dramatically change. We'll have to wait and see. on that one, really. We look at Sazonov now, then, who's currently 21st and currently 4/10 off of Blackwood. And we now look at Videri, who's up on his personal best, but then loses time in that middle centre. I wonder if it's got anything to do with Anderson behind, I wonder. That's something I'll be quite curious to find out, really. As now Videri making his way towards the final couple of the corners, wearing the Guan Yu Cho helmet. If anybody pointed that one out, gone with quite a different design this time by now. He's at Ferrari. As now Martins we're looking at now. Then he's just coming up towards the back of still stuck behind Mocho, I should say. He's still not been able to clear the Lamborghini at the moment. Mocho's still not been able to improve at the moment in that car, and I don't know if it's got anything to do with Martins. Perhaps it's preventing him from improving, I wonder, as now Martins is going to try and pass him this time into the hairpin. Has he got it done this time by? He has indeed. So finally he's disposed of Michael Mocho's Lamborghini. I'll be interested to see what the straight line speed is like when we get to the Red Bull Ring with the Renault as well, because it took a while for Martin to get by that Lambo. Maybe the Lambo's got some very good straight line speed perhaps, and maybe it could work to Williams' benefit as well. And we know in the past that Williams have used to be pretty good with straight line speed. Maybe they're going to get that back this time by now that they're with Lamborghini. And it looks like Quarg will get a lap in as we ride on board with Martin, who's actually behind him, in fact, on the racetrack. So, yeah, that's that. As hopefully he doesn't get held up by his own teammate. Otherwise, he won't really get a clean lap. He might even get two chances at this. We'll have to wait and see how much time he has left when he crosses the line. And I think we might actually stick. Are we going to stick with the drivers on this occasion? We might do, because we're still sticking with Juantis Martins. So Martins across the line, and he improves, but only into 15th position. Videri's coming back in. Suto's on an improvement in the Aston Martin, as Perinen is out on track, and he might just get one more lap in due to where the pit lane exit is on this racetrack. So Suto now then coming down the pit straight now then. And he goes into 16th place, gets in front of Gomez. P6 for Chris Chatfield. Byrne will get one more lap before the session comes to a close. Here comes Rahul Patel in the Sauber now then, as he just rounds the final corner now then onto the racetrack. And now we get onto the pit straight, and he does not improve. He stays in 18th position. Blackwood up on his personal best. Let's see what he can do across the line, and he goes up into 9th position. Sazonov up on his personal best. Here comes the Aston Martin driver, and he goes up into 12th position. A big improvement for him there. Valdinger, the Mr. P10 merchant, is just coming down the pit straight, and across the line he goes. No improvement for him. Perinen might get one more lap in, but we'll have to wait and see. And as we look at Quarg now, then he's just coming around the quadruple right-hander, and I think Perinen will get a lap in before the session comes to a close, as he's just coming up towards the final corner now then. So, as the seconds tick down, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and it's now 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Checker flag is out. That's the end of the session. Quarg was just the last one to cross the line. Mocho just misses out on doing another lap, and he goes into 18th. Martins gets the checker flag next to his name, as I know that Yuri didn't actually increase the laps, but it actually hasn't been too effective this time by. So, yeah, that's that. Is now Suto. Yeah, but either way, it didn't affect things. Suto goes up to 10th. Willow's just getting some mileage in there as we now look at Evan Byrne. He's just coming across the line. Can he get to the top of the standings before the session comes to a close? No, he can't. He goes into 2nd place with that lap. So could it be 2 days in a row that we see Perinen at the top of the timing sheet? Patel improves but stays in, well, effectively last on the timing sheet, but second to last due to car not setting a time. Blackwood goes into 5th place there. Sazonov across the line he goes into 9th in the Aston Martin. Lopez across the line, and he goes into 6th place. Valdinger rounds the final corner himself in the Sauber. He crosses the line now then, and he does not improve, stays in P12. As we look at Perinen now then, who's just coming towards the final couple of the corners, and we just have to wait for Quarg, who's just behind. Quarg was the last one, of course, to cross the line, as Perinen now then making his way around the final couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then he will go into the final turn and onto the pit straight now then we will go, as Jesus Perinen now then comes across the line, and he does not improve. Quarg now then across the line he will go in the Renault. He's on an improvement, and he goes into 7th, and that is the session done with, because he was the last one to cross the line. So despite Mocho going up, Mocho didn't do enough to set another time. So the top 3 being Perinen, Byrne and Rogue. So a very interesting session with the changeable conditions, Ra.
Yeah, pretty interesting with the changeable conditions. Not really representative for day 2, but it's useful information.
Yeah, indeed, and it was only a joke, Chris. Don't take it seriously. But yeah, very interesting and very exciting session. Well, that has been it then from day 2 of pre-season testing, and of course the final day of pre-season testing here at Misano, of course. And I hope you've enjoyed some very interesting knowledge in terms of the downforce. But I wonder what the high speed is going to be like. We will see you then, guys, tomorrow at the same time at 4:30 p.m. BST for day 3 of pre-season testing. The first day over at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Austria, and we'll get to see what the straight line speed is going to be like. But that is not the only stream that we're going to be having tomorrow, because also after the pre-season test for the top class at 7 p.m. BST, we will have the Formula E pre-season test over at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia, Spain. The first pre-season test for Formula E since 2020, and it will be Blake Moore's first stream as FE host. So hopefully it's going to be a very good stream for him indeed, and a very exciting one for him as well. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. I'm JW97. He's been Ra, and we will see you tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. BST for the first day at Spielberg. Take care.
Bye.